Welcome to The Voice of Retail. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc. This podcast is brought to you in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada and with the support of Omnovos, Canada's digital customer engagement company. Omnovos makes personalization easy by helping you connect with your customers, connect with your data, and connect with your systems. Learn how at www.realcustomerengagement.com. On this episode, I traveled to Montreal to meet Alexandre Guimond, co-CEO of Altitude Sports, and now pure-play e-commerce retailer focused on curating high-quality, durable goods for outdoor adventures and urban pursuits. We talk about their growth strategy in the before time, adjusting to the rapid demand in their business, and the launch of same-day delivery in Montreal and upcoming soon in Toronto. Next, from Toronto, Steffen Schenk, President, COO at Mīhī Cannabis, returns to the podcast in his new role and talks about the journey to opening their first store in Ontario and their winning focus on customer experience. But first, let's check in with Alex from Altitude. Alex, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
Very good. What about you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a busy time, as we get back to, the fall in a kind of a traditional way. You get back into the fall. It's not a very traditional back to fall. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, this weird and wacky kind of back to school season being elongated and stopping and starting and all those things. But otherwise, lots of people thinking about what's going to happen now in the future and holiday and all that stuff. So I'm so excited to jump in. You've been doing some amazing work and really looking forward to talking with you. Tell us about yourself. Why don't we jump in? Tell us about yourself, your personal journey, the founding of Altitude Sports and the evolution of the business to what is now a pureplay.com retailer.
Yeah, well, we were not always a pure play. We started, as a small brick and mortar shop on Saint Denis Street in Montreal. That was back in the 80s, and at the time I was not. I was just born actually, so I was not. I didn't start the company, but I joined as a sales clerk during 2002. I moved to Montreal to study at university, and that was my part-time job as I was studying philosophy actually. So at the time my goal was more to travel and be outdoor than anything else. But I fell in love with the company and the website that was just starting. We were in around 2004 handling maybe 10, 20 orders a month, and it became my focus very rapidly. And in 2004, I started Google AdWords, actually, when Google launched that service. And I learned, on like many people in the web business, I learned by myself how to do those ads. And I was also lucky. I was living with a high school friend of mine, Max, who became my partner over time. And he joined the company to help me on the marketing side. And eventually in 2009, we bought back the business. We really felt there was a wave coming in the online world in Canada, and we wanted to take it. So we put our efforts on the online business really early on. And then since then, we unfortunately we closed the store, and but we did push the web a lot, and it became our main business in several years. Today we are an organization of about 250 employees. At peak time this year, we'll probably be around 400. This year we're going to ship more than 1 million orders. So wow. It's become a significant. Thanks a lot.
So that's pretty significant, right? So tell me, let's dive into that for a little bit. When you talk about shipping those orders, do you use 3PL? Do you have your own warehouse? Tell me a little bit about how you go to market with your fulfillment.
We do everything or almost everything in-house. Really early on, we decided that we wanted to acquire that knowledge and develop the knowledge internally. So everything that we do, marketing size, operational size, finance, every department you can imagine, we have them. We do sometimes deal with external agency for very specific things, but we have our own DC in Montreal, about 160,000 square feet. Of the distribution center, and we just moved in actually in March, so that was a challenge with the pandemic coming, but it was a success nonetheless, and we're equipped to triple the business over the next 5 years. So that's our goal right now.
Thinking about you mentioned the COVID and the pandemic. Thinking about back to 2019, so pre-COVID, the before time, as I call it. Some days it's hard to remember than others, but. You're in a very busy sector, even particularly in Quebec. You've got new competitors. You've got vendors trying to figure out where they fit in the ecosystem, figuring out direct-to-consumer strategies. I want to get from you, what were you thinking back in 2019, you and the team, around your kind of three key strategies to both remain competitive and to continue to move forward? You clearly were looking at expansion while opening up a new DC, but and where I'm going with this is, let's talk about then, after we talk about that, what's changed, or if there's anything different or in the mechanics of that. But take me back to 2019. What were the kind of foundational strategies that you were looking at to move the business forward?
I can certainly do that. I think I'll take you back to 2007 actually, because I feel like the mindset for us hasn't changed a lot. It only has accelerated. So back then we were thinking about customer experience, operational efficiency, and carrying the best products, and that was our goal, to when we were approaching our clientele. And last year we had the similar mindset, right? Our goal is to provide the best possible experience, and right now we feel like the online world is the best way for us to do that. We have a super knowledgeable staff that is trained on the technologies that are used in our segment. We sell outdoor equipment, urban and technical apparel as well. Our goal is to be everywhere the customer needs us. So we talk with them over phone, email, chat, Facebook, Instagram, and we connect with them in many ways to help them find the product they're looking for. We always aimed at having the best possible operational facilities. We believed early on that our best marketing was making sure that the transaction with us was perfect. The goal was to establish trust with the consumer, because of course the relationship is different than in store. I've sold many items on the floor back in my days as a sales clerk, but online it's different. People really want to connect with you. They want to establish trust, and it can be earned, but it can be easily lost as well. So our goal was always to prove that we are there at every step of the order, and it does involve shipping the right product in time to the customer. That's something that is very crucial to the e-commerce business. And then, carrying the best products. We have a vision where not only do we want to provide the most durable, most sustainable products, but we also want them to look good. And we feel that the brands we carry incarnate just that, right? It's possible to wear something that is technical and super well done, but that will also look nice. And there was a time where maybe it was not as easy to find those products, but now we feel like we have the premium items for the customers.
Well, I love your approach. I was at the Shopping Channel for many years, and we debated whether we needed a loyalty program or what would that look like. And foundationally, we said, listen, the best loyalty program we can have is doing a great order, getting the order right every time with the right price. Pretty much exactly what you said. Like, that's the best loyalty program ever. Is just be really good and consistent, right? Consistency is key. So I really like your approach. Let me pull on one thread a little bit. So many retailers, even pure play retailers, have open stores, experience stores, or in your category, rock climbing stores or wall climbing stores. Were you ever tempted to go back to having physical retail, even if it's a showcase or a pop up? Did that ever enter your mind?
I'd say yes. Every year we discuss that idea. Honestly, it has always been a lot of fun. The brick and mortar era for us, and we enjoyed the physical connection with the customers. But every year when we ask ourselves this, we wonder, how can we provide the best customer experience? And right now we feel there's so much to do online and so much we can improve that every year we decide to postpone that project for a year or two. Last year we delved into having a running club, and we were sending an ambassador from our company to other businesses in order to train them for 45 minutes and have them try shoes. So we are trying to be physical in different ways. We have a content magazine that we send out every 2 or 3 months. And we try to have the best packaging and unboxing experience possible too. But yes, the store is appealing. We like visiting current stores, and we like to stay up to date on that side. We see a lot of interesting things being done at the international level that we like. But so far, we've decided to put our energies at bringing the best experience possible online. This is where we feel we're the best, and this is how we differentiate us as well as from the competition.
Well, I like that approach. In other words, let's be really good at what we're supposed to be really good at, and prioritize growing, because it's really a marketing and experience, but it all nests back into being really, really good at the core. So basically, it's not that you're against in any way, so to speak, or we're not against stores. It's just in the order of things to do, it just wouldn't make it to the number one because you had other things to accomplish. Like you said, you opened up a new DC. That takes a lot of work. That's a big project, right, for anybody to take on.
Exactly. And then this year, actually last fall, we launched our own brand named Valier. And that was another interesting project for us, because that's a way for us to have a physical presence. We've been a retailer of the best brands for many decades now, but you know how it is in this world. You see products and you have your own opinion about them, and our team of buyers, they're very critical of their products they select. And eventually the idea came, in the company that we should start doing our own products. And this is what we started with Valier, where we're really trying to push a brand that will focus on the urban technical aspect of the product, and really something that you can wear in the city, but that will have all the technical aspect or the technical advantages of the brands that we carry. And so far, we've had good success with that brand as well. So there are many little things we're trying to do in order to occupy, the physical space, but we're trying to be different. And like you said, so far we haven't seen how to be better on the brick and mortar side than let's say the other players that are there. They are doing a good job. And our focus is really online on our end.
Well, you kind of preempted it. My next question I was going to follow up is, what's your merchandising strategy around your own line? But I think you've mentioned it a couple of times now. You want good technical wear that is also fashionable, right? That also you can wear out. And where do you draw your fashion inspiration from? So, it's been my experience that the Quebec-based retailers tend to draw their fashion sense more from Europe than from the West Coast, but there's a lot of fitness that comes up from California and Vancouver and Oregon and finds its way into Canada and goes east. Where do you look for inspiration, just when you think about that fashion and your customer?
That's a very good question. I mean, we're all passionate here about this niche segment, and we have suggestions coming, from our own staff traveling the world. We do visit trade shows worldwide. We have traveled a lot. Most of my colleagues have been around the world a few times, and we're passionate about what's being done, outside. We try to draw the line where we are able to explain technically an item. So a piece can be fashionable, but we want to make sure that the price behind it makes sense, that it is fair in a way, right? So we do sell $1,000 or $2,000 jacket, but we're able to explain, how it was done, the membrane they have used, the goose down, which level, which grade was used. And as long as we can say logically decorticate the item and explain it, we feel comfortable. The goal is to find a product that is fair for the customers, of course. And so there is a line where we feel it becomes overpriced for what the product is, but we think there is a price for quality. So in a sense, we have always stayed in let's say more premium bracket, but we have a limit. I don't see ourselves selling $20,000 jacket, for example. So this is where we draw the line. And when it comes from where we source our products, we imported our own brands, from Norway, from Japan. We were one of the few that carried Norrona in the beginning, which is a brand that can be compared to Arc'teryx in a few levels. We brought Creek from Japan. We bring a lot of brands from the international level, and that's our goal too. Our goal is to bring new products to our customers, but again, products that are well made, will last long, and that are nice looking.
It's interesting when you talk about the price point line, because over the past decade, and you must have seen this, you firsthand, is that line keeps going up, not down, particularly in technical apparel and product, right? That there's a bit of a separation between value product and then the high end product. That price point goes up like north of $1,000 for a coat was a rarity. Mm-hmm. It's now more common, would you say, in anyone's assortment, really?
It is. I think people are more sensitive to where the product was made, what kind of textile were used, and the process behind it. And when you look into it deep enough, you'll see that every step of the way, if you want to make a good product, well, it is expensive, in the end. Right. And at some point, you have to pay the price to have this kind of, let's say, perfect product. But we're there to kind of help the customers in their journey. And there are very good products coming from other countries that are well made and that respect, are respectful for the environment and the world in general. And our goal is to try and bring that to the customers. But we also see many brands trying to bridge, the gap and try to offer, let's say, the good in between. So you can find a good winter jacket at $500, $600, but for sure you can have a more technical piece at $1,000, $1,200. But again, it depends on the kind of activities you're making and how often you do the activity. So the goal is to make a good investment in the end.
All right. Well, let's. It's a great foundation. It's a great place to start from. So this whole COVID thing that hit us like either a shockwave or a sledgehammer, depending on who you were. But it's hard to question the fact that there's been an acceleration, a great acceleration, as Carl Boutet from Montreal describes this fast-moving, sudden increase of adoption. We can debate how many years we've gone forward. I interviewed Sucharita Kadali from Forrester, and their estimate is America moved forward 2 years in terms of where the demand went. Who knows what it is in Canada? Certainly, it's up 63. I was looking at July numbers from Stats Canada. E-commerce is up 63%, which is just creates opportunities and mind-boggling challenges. So tell me, as you experienced the past 7 months, what were your thoughts? What if anything has changed about your growth strategy? Is it accelerated? You saying, all right, we're here. You're a digital native organization, so you're in the right place at the right time. But tell me about how you were thinking as a team about whether it's the COVID era now and what implications it may have going forward.
Well, before COVID, we were, expecting the growth to be there for sure. We've seen Canadian customers go online more and more. And we have always compared ourselves to, the American market and European market. And we normally look at the e-commerce penetration rate. So, on a certain amount of retail sales, how many are done online? And in Canada, we've seen years where we were at 3-4% of the retail transaction being done online. And in the recent years, it climbed to 11, 12, 13%. But when you compare to the States or Japan or China, you can see e-commerce penetration rate going up to 50% in other countries. So we knew that the wave was coming. And now at which pace, right? At which speed? We felt that it was accelerating already last year and the years prior. But COVID certainly accelerated a lot of the online businesses. People had to go inside and stay inside for a while, and they had to kind of adopt new ways to shop online and find entertainment. And I can say, like in Canada, we've seen people from different generation try online business for the first time, and once they try it, they enjoy it. Like they enjoy how easy it is to just sit back and relax in your couch, start a movie, and shop online. Look at the stuff you need for your next day adventure. And this is also why during the last few months we've decided to kind of embrace the acceleration, and we even launched same-day delivery a few weeks ago, and in Montreal, and that has been a huge success. When you're able to shop online in the morning and place your order before 1 p.m. and you'll get it the same evening, that's something incredible that connects to the instant gratification that you would get when you were shopping in a store. It's nice to shop and actually leave with their product in your hands, but now you can do just that by ordering online and having the products delivered in the next hours. So that's something that has been really huge to us, and we're looking to unlock next day delivery in Toronto. So that's going to be something interesting. But yeah, in general, we've accelerated by about 100%. The growth was amazing. For sure, the first few weeks we were like any anyone, I guess, in the world. We had our concern. We were learning what the pandemic was, but soon enough we saw the orders coming, and we realized, okay, we need to be there for our customers. That they're looking for products, and the category we're in is also good for staying in shape, having a good mental health. So it was important for us to make sure that the customers would get what they needed to stay fit and stay healthy during that hard time.
Well, I've termed it the outdoor economy, right? I mean, it'll be really interesting to see this winter, because I think if Canadians turn their minds to the fact that it is, on the whole, better to be outside and good for mental health, but it's also better to be outside than inside for some activities. That I think it augurs well to. I mean, you've traveled the world, in some cold, you go to Germany and there's bars outside. They're just wearing big blankets. I mean, it's a very different, it's can be very different. And it'll be interesting to see if Canada and Canadians align themselves to that. One thing I wanted to talk about. So years ago, someone asked me on a panel if same-day delivery was a niche or mainstream, and if it was going to become mainstream, when would that happen? And my thinking at the time was that same-day delivery was more of a niche, because sometimes it does come with an increased cost. So I want to get into the business model for you. But where do you think that's accelerated as well? How important, and let me rephrase the question, how important do you think same-day is delivery in your overall business model? Is it a great, I mean, it's groundbreaking, certainly in Montreal, and then in Toronto, that'll be something else. Is that going to make ultimately the decision point between choosing to shop with you or someone else, or is it just to help close the deal? Where do you sit on that spectrum?
I think so. I understand where you come from. I would a few years back, I think I would have thought like you, where maybe it's just a niche fad, or some people are impatient and they want their product faster than others. But no, I think it's becoming something very crucial for us. And just like anything in life, the customer expectations kind of set the bar, and if they can have it, they will want it, right? So for us, it's the ultimate convenience, because the customer can. We can save the day, for a customer leaving for a trip or an expedition. And it has happened a lot to our customers when we were in the stores. And even as an online business, we have customers calling us and say, hey, something broke. I need it ASAP. I'm leaving tomorrow morning for that huge trip, and I need those walking sticks or that tent. Being able to deliver it. I mean, there were a few occurrences where we actually drove to the customer ourselves and delivered it the same day because they weren't important customers. But being able to do that for every customer is, I think, the best convenience possible. I think it will accelerate the loyalty as well. Once a customer buys from you, get the right item super fast. We've seen in our numbers, actually, since the last 2-3 months, that the customers that were using the same day service were more likely to repeat, because they've enjoyed their experience, and then they repeat order, and then they feel like they can try stuff. Online, you almost feel guilty of ordering a few sizes because it sounds a bit inefficient. It's going to take time returning the item, but if it gets delivered in the same day and you can return it the next day, it becomes super easy for the customer. So far, we feel it's a very, very promising experience, and we do intend to put more emphasis on same-day delivery or next-day delivery as much as we can in the next few years.
Well, it's a big lift, right? Because it's one thing to take the order; it's another thing to get it out of the warehouse. Get it out in the same day, let alone onto the doorstep. Tell me about the model. Is it a premium service, or if I'm choosing as a customer, am I paying a premium? Then do I have a choice? In other words, listen, I need it today versus I need it tomorrow. Is that a premium service that you offer? How do you structure that?
Right now, we charge $3.99 for members. We have a membership at our store, and let's say for any other customer, it will be $6.99. So it's still a cheap price, in my opinion, for that kind of service.
Sorry, $6.99 for same day delivery.
Yeah. And $3.99 if you're a member. Yeah, so
that's fantastic. It's fantastic.
It's a good price, right? And and our goal is that our customer embrace that and they do try it. We are looking into it. This may evolve over time. We wonder, should it be a premium thing? Should we make it available for members only? But we felt like all of our customers should be able to have access to this this feature, and we may, give it as a promotional item, in peak events or things like that. That's something we're looking into. But so far, I think we've chosen a price that is accessible for anyone.
Interesting. I also see on your site that you offer a buy now, pay later option. And again, back to my days at the shopping channel, that was we did what we call easy pay, which was just divided up into payments on any credit card. We didn't have an in-house credit card, and we found it made a bigger difference. The higher price of the product, right? Whereas in the lower price of the product, it made less of a difference. Is that your thinking as well? That it's just another option and might help increase your conversion at the top end?
It's exactly why we're doing this. Also, we realize we're touching to other customers. We're seeing new customers buying from us because we have those installments features. But this is for the reason you mentioned. We do sell some items that are expensive, and in some cases, some customers will want to split, the payment over 4 installments. Especially when you have a big trip ahead. Some people have been looking to, go on a ski trip in Europe for several weeks, or they have a big mountaineering expedition coming, and it can be very expensive for them to equip. When you buy an expedition tent, all the gear you need, Gore-Tex and so on, you can spend several $1,000s in an order. So that drives, a better AOV.
Well, let's talk about, if you could, share some advice with the retailers listening. You're an e-commerce veteran. You go back to the early days, 2004. So you've been doing this a long time. You're in the right place at the right time. You made some great bets and also had some great wisdom. So if you had the opportunity to share, 2 starts, you should start doing this, and 1, you should stop doing this with retailers who are perhaps a little less advanced in their e-commerce thinking, what would they be? One
success we've had with our company, I think, is we've always thought of our business as baby steps. Even though it feels like we roll out over the last few years, we really looked at a constant evolution, trying to implement things as with an MVP mindset. Let's say, let's make it simple, basic. Let's test if it works, and then repeat and grow the feature or the initiative. Do baby steps is the best way to see the changes and track what you're doing. Also, start looking at your business on a transactional level. I'd say online orders is about online orders, right? So doing e-commerce is really about shipping orders, and it helped us. Let's say scale our business and make sure it's profitable year after year. When we started looking at the company on a transactional level, and shipping, logistics, credit card fees, sales insurance, and so on, they're all attached to the order somehow. So I think that's something that must be looked into when you're doing online business. And I would say stop fooling around. I feel like the e-commerce is so behind, in my opinion, on so many levels in Canada. And I've spoken with a lot of retailers where it feels like there's always an obstacle or always a challenge in justifying some investment or some expenses, and this is why doing baby steps might be more convenient. I understand that everyone has depends on your pocket, but not everyone can make a significant investment day one for that super shiny website. But stop fooling around. I think it's time that we seize that opportunity. That these would be my advices, and maybe a bonus one is, I think I've spoken with a lot of retailers that were very heavily invested in brick and mortar, and they would always talk about their online website as hoping that it would become their best store, let's say. So they would imagine that the online business can be as big as their best store. But when I would ask how many employees they had in their bigger store compared to the web business, and you could easily see that they were underinvesting. If you have a store that makes 20 million a year and you have 150 employees in it, if you're hoping to drive a $20 million online business, at some point you should have 100 something employee in it. So the investment has to be made proportionally to your hopes, right?
Well, a lot's gone on in the past and a lot's gone on this year. So it's a kind of a funny question, but what's next for Altitude? Where do you look to in the future, 2021 and beyond?
Well, short term, of course, we have fall and winter. I think we're going to see an interesting focus on winter activities, just like we saw in the summer. Camping, cycling, running, training were all super busy categories for us, and we rule out those segments. We expect winter to be similar. I think Canadians will even be more Canadians than before, so they will enjoy winter, go out, and learn a new sport, and try to stay active outside. So we'll try to help them discover those activities, or improve, or keep practicing them on a daily basis. On a more, I mentioned the next delivery in Toronto. That's for sure a big milestone for us. We were hoping to bring that service out west eventually, in Toronto and so on. And I would say more mid long term, we have a marketplace that we launched 2 years ago, and we have been onboarding many brands on the marketplace, so that we're able to expand our catalog. So. And display more products and help the customer find the size and the colors that are always sold out too fast, So that's a big project on our mind that is getting a lot of traction right now. We're also thinking of expanding, outside of Canada. We have a lot of customers reaching out to us and asking to place order from other countries, and which is not always a possibility. We're really focused on the Canadian market right now.
Sure.
But we've had the chance to be bilingual from the core, and we have a good processes into handling two languages. So we see that it would be an opportunity for us to open a new market and try to provide our customer experience to other customers worldwide. So that's a more longer term project for us.
Particularly now that you got a private label, right? Because that's a little harder with the brands who like to kind of keep sales domestic rather than international sometimes, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Valier is also a project for which we're looking into opening doors, worldwide and selling worldwide.
Well, fantastic. Well, listen, I love your philosophy, the outlook around your focus on the unit economics as part of your advice. Attach everything to an order. You clearly experienced. Love your website, great assortment. It's really well done. So, it's been such a treat getting to know the business better and get to know you better. I wish you much continued success and look forward to seeing great things out of your business. So thanks again for joining me on the Voice of Retail podcast.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Hi, this is Steve Dennis, and I'm here to tell you retail isn't dead, boring retail is. As a C-level executive at 2 Fortune 500 companies, keynote speaker, and strategic advisor to dozens of retail, consumer, and technology brands, I help organizations accelerate their growth. I'm also the author of the new best-selling book, Remarkable Retail: How to Win and Keep Customers in the Age of Digital Disruption. Join me and my co-host Michael LeBlanc, producer and host of the Voice of Retail podcast, as we use my 8 Essentials of Remarkable Retail framework to explore modern retail before, during, and after the COVID-19 crisis.
Each and every week, Steve and I, along with special guests including top retailers and industry thought leaders, will explore the latest events and work to understand the lessons of the past and present to craft strategies for the future.
So please join us each and every week for a lively and interactive journey to Remarkable Retail, debuting September 29th on Apple, Spotify, or any of the major platforms wherever you enjoy your podcasts today.
Stefan, welcome back to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to chat to you today.
Well, I'm excited because the last time you were on the podcast, it was a special bonus episode from Conference of Retail Council of Canada. So you were on a panel, so you were one of several people that I spoke to, but you and I haven't had the chance to have that great conversation here. So I'm really looking forward to it. Why don't we jump right in? Tell us about yourself, personal, professional journey, and your role at mīhī Cannabis.
Perfect. As you might be able to tell, I grew up in Germany. So I spent my first 19 years there, and then ended up traveling the world, traveled to Australia, and then in 2006 came to Canada. And I've always been in retail. For me, it's always been about the custom experience. It's always been about converting shoppers into buyers. And I started out with a retail design and production agency. And we would actually build the stores. Even today, I can't walk into any store without looking at the displays and trying to figure out what kind of material they used.
You're ruined forever, right? You can never do that the rest of your life. You can never walk into a store and not look at stuff like that.
It is amazing, and it drives my wife insane. But it's just a passion, and that's where I started out. So it was all about the production of store fixtures, and then I quickly moved into the more strategic aspects of retail. So I joined a retail agency called Barrows, part of WPP, one of the large agency holding networks in the world, and helped them found their Canadian footprint. And that agency was very much focused on omni-channel strategy and market development opportunities, primarily with tier one CPG companies and large retailers, which was amazing. Unilever was one of my clients, so you get to sell everything from Dove to Axe to Becel Margarine, which gives you a really good understanding of the retail marketplace, particularly here in Canada. Ended up moving down to the States for 3-4 years. Lived in New York, which was an amazing experience, both personally in regards to living in such a great city, but also professionally, because the one thing I realized is that, the United States moves at a different pace. Yeah. I think that there are bigger budgets down there, so the amount of insights kind of coming towards you and the amount of opportunity is just tremendous, especially if you're in the retail innovation space. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and I spent time there working with Walmart, both with a head office in Bentonville, as well as with the e-commerce arm in St. Bruno with Mark Lohr and his team, actually, on retail innovation and basically what we called retail ecosystems. And the whole premise of my work was all about how does Walmart need to be positioned in 2025 in order to be able to compete with Amazon as well as the smaller startups. And an absolutely amazing experience. I would love to tell you that I single-handedly designed the Walmart strategy for the next 40 years. But to be perfectly honest with you, I probably learned more from them than they did from me, because I've never seen a retailer that is that sophisticated when it comes to insights, go to market. I don't even want to get started on logistics and the supply now. So that's just been a terrific experience. At the same time, I was fortunate enough to work with Samsung, so I kind of got the consumer electronics higher end brand building side in as well. And at one point, I actually managed 100 temporary locations across the United States for Samsung through the agency that I was working for. So absolutely unbelievable experience. And in 2018, we decided that we have had enough of New York. Now with COVID and everything happening, it was probably the best decision I've ever made.
As it turns out, yeah.
Obviously, other than marrying my wife. We decided we want to come back to Canada. And the people from Blackshire, the investor into mīhī, actually reached out and we started a conversation if I would be willing to join mīhī. At that point, it was just a number company. It didn't have a name. It wasn't a brand. It was just a number. But if I would be willing to actually help them start something up in the cannabis space. And to be honest, for me at that point, I've dealt with CPG, I've sold bar soap, I've done all that. And I was getting a little bit frustrated with some of the legacy systems and processes that you have to deal with as part of working with large organizations. And many times I found that everybody agreed on what's the right thing to do from a customer experience, but we knew we couldn't do it because operationally we would be too constrained. So for me, the idea of being able to build from a complete greenfield in an industry such as cannabis, which I hugely believe in, and I believe in the plan, I believe in what it can do for humanity, was just hugely exciting. So I decided to join mīhī in 2018, and the rest is history.
And that's where the journey began. Well, what an I didn't know your background in the CPG. I hadn't connected those dots. So it's great to understand. It makes me understand better some of the things you've said, where your sophistication comes. I mean, around channel and around product. So that's an interesting background. Well, let's talk about mīhī. I had the pleasure of visiting your first store in Burlington, just outside Toronto, a couple of weeks ago. It's a great store. We can talk a little bit more about that. So congratulations. The first store is open. Tell us about the long and windy journey that pretty much every cannabis retailer goes on. What's your version of that long and windy journey to opening up the first great store?
First and foremost, thank you very much for dropping by the store. I really appreciated having you there, getting your feedback, hugely valuable. So I was really pleased to have you there. mīhī, it's interesting because I think the stories are somewhat similar across many cannabis retailers in Canada. And, just like many others, we were gearing up for a large-scale rollout in late 2018, leading into 2019. A very ambitious goal of basically rolling out 35 stores in the first year of operation. And we were working towards that. We had a good financial backing from the Blackshire Group, which allowed us to spent a lot of time and energy on consumer insights, research, truly understanding the market, truly understanding the shopper missions and what they're actually looking for. And at the same time, building what I believe is a very, very solid brand that's firmly grounded in insights. But obviously, we switched from an open market to the lottery process. We were holding many leases, which at that point it is an issue, right? Because if you want to get to 35, 40 locations, you've got to sign 35, 40 leases to get there. With a lottery, we obviously had to adapt very quickly. We had to make sure that we optimize our real estate portfolio. We had to streamline it. At the same time, we had to optimize some of our staffing. We had to keep our investors happy. But I think,
well, as you said, like many organizations, you were geared up for a level based on the expectation of a very open market. And then, actually, of course, the first expectation in the province was there was not going to be a market. So we were pretty happy with privatization under the Ford government. But then a little too quickly as I said, like many others, you had geared up for a rapid growth. And this is the thing that we tried to communicate to the Ford government is, these kind of sudden jarring changes have a massive effect, right? You guys had invested in, you were sharing on the stage, impressive research, top tier agencies, building up a great team to roll. And it's very different to roll out 30 stores than it is 3. So you had built the team indexed to that size, right?
No, absolutely. And I think, we were fortunate in that we were a larger organization. As such, we had the necessary cash reserves to kind of weather the storm and hang in there. And it gave us an additional 2 years to fine-tune our customer experience, to really think through some of the missions and some of our brand building initiatives. So it wasn't a wasted 2 years. But obviously, I would have loved to roll out stores. And I think the other piece here is also that my heart goes out to the small entrepreneurs that wanted to do their own thing, wanted to be their own small business, start up their own store, potentially took out a mortgage against their home, signed their life away. And then ended up in a lottery situation where, quite honestly, I don't think there were 20 winners and then 4,800 losers. I think that's the tough part.
Including, by the way, the Ontario consumer.
100%.
Right.
And we're still trying to catch up to some of the other provinces. I think that obviously it strengthened the illicit market in the short term, because you had all that awareness of cannabis, but you didn't have the doors to actually fulfill the demand. So naturally that demand has to go somewhere, and it went back to the illicit market.
Well, as you know, it's still an issue in several municipalities, in Mississauga, for example, right, where they still haven't opened those doors. But I'm confident. Anyway, we're jumping around a little bit. But so basically, you had the ability to stick with great backers, Blackshire, but at a point you had to decide what you were going to do as you were contemplating and going through this last year, right?
Oh, absolutely, and I think really the deciding moment was really when COVID hit in early March. At that point, we were out to race, and we were actually supposed to close our race the week that we ended the COVID shutdown. So at that point, it just felt a little bit like the world is against you, to be perfectly honest. You're just kind of looking in the mirror and you're asking yourself, how many punches can I actually take? But we were able to streamline our lease portfolio. Some of our landlords have been great to work with. They are very understanding of the challenges that especially small retailers face. So they've been great. As a leadership team, we just looked at each other and we just didn't want to believe that this is the end of the road after 1.5 years of hard work. And we decided to stick it out. Obviously, we had to make some fundamental changes to the team, downsize and streamline the team, because as you've mentioned, I don't need a head office staff of 15 to run a store in Burlington.
Right.
So we just had to make some really hard decisions there, which was really, really hard because, quite honestly, I absolutely love the team I work with now, and I love the team that was with us right from the beginning. So very tough decisions there. But ultimately, we were able to grind our way through Q1 and Q2 of 2020. And then ultimately, once we were able to open the Burlington store, you finally realize what it has been that you've been working for the last 2 years. And it's just so rewarding to walk into the store and get customer feedback, and actually see it come to life. It's tough living in PowerPoints. Like I was just sick of looking at PDF and PDF presentations.
Now, along that journey, your role has changed as well, right? So one of the things I skipped over is your role today at mīhī. Tell me about that.
Yes, when I first joined mīhī, I joined as the SVP customer experience. So anything that has to do with the customer experience, the website, the store, my construction of the stores was in my wheelhouse at that time. Blackshire has shown great patience with me in one side, but then also has shown a lot of faith in me and my abilities, which I hugely appreciate. And earlier this year, they decided to elevate me to president dash, that's the COO of the company. So now I get to oversee everything that has to do with the operations of the business, and it's been great. And I can't say enough about the team that I have with me. Like they're absolutely amazing people, professionals, but even more so, just amazing personalities. And it's just fun to work with them. And to be honest, it's been a very easy transition for me because I just get to spend more time with the people I love.
So let's talk about the brand mīhī itself. Walk us through the origin of the name, the thinking. That's one thing that has been consistent for sure that hasn't changed. And just if you could, articulate what's your brand? What experience should I look for when I go to your store? Of course, I've been there, so I have the benefit versus the listeners. So I've got a great idea of the brand experience. But walk us through the thinking on that, and then if from the time you went from it's a year and a half in development, you always have a few second thoughts. So any changes? You mentioned a few when we were chatting at the store. You changed some fixtures and stuff. But tell us a little bit about the journey to create the brand name, what you stand for, and then how the first store kind of wound up articulating that brand.
Absolutely. And then it's actually an interesting story around how mīhī came to be. And I've mentioned earlier that we spent a lot of effort on insights and research. And some of the things that we've heard loud and clear from most of the people that we talk to, or focus groups that we've held, is that cannabis is unique to everybody. Everybody uses it differently, and it's got different effects, and they've got a different relationship with cannabis. At the same time, we also realize that there's very little education in the marketplace. You've got legacy users, they know exactly what they want, but even legacy users were never exposed to the full spectrum of cannabis strains, cannabis products. So even though they've been using cannabis for 10, 15 years, they actually only have kind of a understanding of the flower product or the growing technologies. But they've never really been exposed to kind of the broader spectrum of cannabis. And then thirdly, the other thing we've really noticed is that there was a huge stigma around buying cannabis at the time in 2018. It was actually very similar to going into a sex shop. We actually had interviews with people that operate sex shops because it was the closest thing to cannabis we could find at the time. Now, fortunately, that has changed since then. I think, we're now in 2020, and if you actually look around, it's actually amazing how quickly the industry has become destigmatized.
Well, I've often commented, went from illicit to essential in 18 months. I mean,
exactly.
Talk about a transition.
A good story. But so people were nervous about going into cannabis stores because they would imagine dispensaries, like illicit dispensaries that they're used to. And especially if you're a new consumer, you're not sure about the product, you may be worried to actually walk into some of those places because you just don't feel like you belong. So for us, mīhī is actually a Latin word. So it's not mīhī, it's mīhī, but you can pronounce it either name, I won't judge you. But mīhī is actually Latin, and it actually stands for me, for me. And for us, it was all about that personal journey and how can we actually help our customers make cannabis a part of their lifestyle. Because we realize that cannabis is just one of the tools that are available to people out there to fulfill a need. So for us, we really honed in on, we know we have to make it a warm and welcoming environment. Like people should walk into our store and it should feel like a breath of fresh air. They should feel instantly relaxed and to an extent also trusting, as in, there's trust there between our guides, which is what we call our store staff, and the customer. The other piece was, we need education. Education is going to be key. because everybody at the time was thirsty for more education, better understanding of what cannabis can do for them. So we developed, workshops, and we have a workshop table within our store where we offer basically micro programming throughout the day, and we host workshops ranging from how to roll a joint, and there are many people out there that can't roll a joint, including me. It's horrible when you look at them. But then we also tackle some of the more serious topics. Cannabis and parenting. How do I actually have a conversation with my kids around cannabis? Yeah. Because we recognize that especially, kind of my demographic and a slightly older demographic are uncomfortable having those discussions with their kids. So they just don't know how to approach it because it's been the devil's lettuce for all their lives. And suddenly it's something that's available at the local plaza in Burlington. Right. We focus on that. But then it is also about some of the scientific aspects behind cannabis. What are terpenes? How do terpenes work? Why are they important when it comes to my cannabis experience? So we very much focused in on giving solid education.
And I had the opportunity to partake in that session, the terpene session, and I learned something. You learn something every day, but I was certainly aware of the entourage effect and the role. Mm-hmm. But I learned so much about the interaction and the different, the different nuances. So it was great.
No, it's very informative. And Tabitha is absolutely amazing when it comes to teaching. It's actually her background, so she's great at it. But terpenes to an extent is like, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it will get to the point that you look at terpenes like you do at certain characteristics of wine.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
well beyond strains and into the finesse of the plant, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And then I think the third big focus of ours was the local community. And I think if you actually look around, that there are not many retailers out there that don't talk about community engagement and social responsibility.
Sure.
But for us, it was really all about, okay, how can we take that to the next level? Like, I don't just want to cut a check for a cause, which is great, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's not true community engagement. That's more me trying to give back to certain charities that may or may not connect with my core audience or with what I stand for as a retailer. So for us, it was all about, okay, we're going to scale out this retail platform. And we will be operating in primarily suburban markets or rural markets, primarily suburban. So how can we actually utilize our platform to enable local entrepreneurs and artisans? Because the one thing I've realized over the last 2 years is that there are amazing tradespeople in every town, and some of the products they produce are absolutely beautiful, but they just don't have the marketing budget or the springboard to actually be known beyond Burlington or Hamilton. And so we actually went on a sourcing drive and looked at those artisans. So, we've got Edith. Edith is from northern Quebec, and she's an amazing pottery artist. So she's making one-hitters and pipes and dishes for us. We've got Chema. Chema is 88 years old, believe it or not. And Chema is a collector of basically smoking paraphernalia out of the 1920s. And we actually partnered with her. So she's now showcasing and selling her collection through our store. So if you walk into our store, you'll see basically ashtrays from the 1920s, joint holders from the 1930s. It's absolutely amazing. And to be honest, that's what excites me. We have custom glassware. We partner with a glassblower in Hamilton to create custom glassware. And we just believe that if you can actually make sure that local entrepreneurs and the local artisans are successful, then the local community is successful, and by extension, mīhī will be successful. So those were some of the key takeaways for us. And, I just love how it's come to life. I think if I look at the customer feedback we're getting, it's been overwhelmingly positive, particularly around education, around our unique assortment, because obviously having local artisans not only helps local artisans, it also helps me with the differentiation of my assortment, which I can do on the flower side right now. Hopefully we'll get to the point that we can actually make deals with micro growers and actually use this as a way to differentiate. But right now, it's really all about the accessories. And I think we've done a great job there. That was a really long-winded answer to mīhī. Let me actually dive into your second question, which was all around, okay, how have we actually adapted the model over the last 2 years? The obvious answer here is like, well, I had to adapt for Cannabis 2.0, because when I designed the store, there was There were no edibles. There were no beverages. So we had to make those changes. I think the other thing that we've done is look at the marketplace, look at what's happening in Alberta, here in Ontario as other retailers roll out, and really just try to understand, okay, what are the things that we think are working well and what are the things that, that we may not want to do. And some of the key things that we've realized is that we needed to spend more time on really understanding the shopper missions. I think initially we very much targeted our store towards kind of the experiential trip where it was all about, okay, somebody's going to come in, spend 40 minutes in our store and have a great experience, get a great education, and then buy his products and then walk back out. But we very quickly realized that, it's also about convenience. Retail is about convenience, no matter which channel you're in. Yeah. And it's also about enabling quick in and outs and having the ability to actually offer value in regards to your pricing strategy. So we've made some adjustments there, particularly in regards to, click and collect, online ordering, which actually went online for us today.
Oh, congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Still a long road ahead to get it to the point where I'm completely happy with it, but it's a great start. But it's also within the store environment, the notion of express lanes. We spend a lot of time on just pricing strategy. What does the pricing slope need to be? And in which segments of the market do we want to play? Like, do we want to play in bulk, premium, and so on? So we did a lot of work on that and just understanding where the marketplace is at.
Did you have any thoughts about that particular neighborhood when you looked at the composition of the folks around the Burlington store? I mean, I was there for a fair bit, and I saw both types of consumers. I saw as you said, the express consumer, someone who was clearly knew what they were looking for, came in, and your team got them product, and they left, and then others kind of lingered, at the new store and look around. Yeah. But did you fashion the assortment and as you said, the pricing strategy a little bit differently? Or would you in Burlington than other cities? Are you getting that micro, or are you just going to learn as you go? Which is also another great approach is, open the store and with one idea and then kind of flex as the customers come in.
So we actually, for all the locations that we've selected, we've actually used the GIC software to truly understand the demographics and the traffic patterns within the store. So yes, we definitely modeled our store assortment towards what we believed a Burlington customer would want, based on demographics, wallet size, and all that kind of good stuff. It's an ongoing journey. Our assortment is by no means perfect. I think we have a lot of work to do there. I think that the key piece here, from my perspective, is that you need to be able to trade in frequent users and daily users, and education may not be the angle or the thing that they're after. They'll be after value.
Right.
So for us, we've done a lot of work around bringing in premium brands, particularly around resin and then some of the other 2.0 products that we know resonate with the experienced user. But at the same time, we also started focusing our pricing strategy, particularly around 7 grams and 15 gram sizes, to be highly competitive in the marketplace. Because we believe that ultimately that's what will convert a experienced user and a value shopper over to you. In regards to hyper-localized assortment, we are thinking about it. Stony Creek will have a very different assortment. Not a very different assortment, but it'll have an optimized assortment from Burlington. We're by no means, I don't think anybody in the industry is sophisticated enough to have truly hyper-localized inventory like a Winners would have.
Right.
But I think that needs to be the goal, and I think we'll get better at it with every store we open. And I think for the time being, what you'll see is that 70% of our assortment will more or less be common across the fleet, and then 30% is what we'll use to optimize for localized specificities.
Well, I can see that as you get to Stony Creek, and then as you get to Hamilton, it does start to get a bit crowded, right? You've got competitors. And it's fun. It's actually great to talk about competitors in your space because, now you get to be a retailer versus taking, not enough stores and people will just show up. Right now, you're talking about all the sophisticated things that will make you successful. Last couple of quick questions. We talked about people when I was in the store and hiring in the COVID crisis, and you need to hire a particular type of person to articulate your brand, and you certainly need to do that even more so during the COVID era. What was your experience in hiring, and give me a few minutes about the type of people that you were looking for the store?
I'm a true believer that your company, especially in retail, succeeds or fails based on the caliber of store associates that you have. Because the reality is I can design the nicest store, I can have the best Instagram, I can have the most beautiful website. If somebody walks into my store and just doesn't get the personal connection with my associate or with my guide, then it will be very tough for me to build loyalty. There are a few brands out there that have been able to do that successfully. I don't think the cannabis space is one of those spaces where you're able to do this. So for us, it's really about interpersonal skills, really hiring for attitude over skills, because you know that you can train for skills. But for me, the way I look at it, I want a diverse team. So I don't look for a certain type of associate as long as I feel like the attitude and the cultural values are in line with what it is that we as mīhī are looking for. Actually, the way I approach it is that I almost look at the store team as an individual, and then I try to figure out what kind of traits do I need within that individual, and that's how I'm going to hire my team. For example, our store leader, Susanna, actually came from H&M. She used to run H&M retail stores. So she's got a solid understanding of retail operations. Like we all know how busy H&Ms are, particularly when we go to downtown Toronto, the amount of staffing that's involved in turnover, that's involved in running those stores. So she's been the perfect fit for a store manager, but she had limited cannabis experience. So if you now look at our associate store managers, they all have a deep cannabis background because we knew we had to augment the skill sets. And that's really the way we look at a team. And at the same time, you also want to make sure that your team to an extent reflects your target demographic. Now we looked at hiring veterans. We've got a ex-community worker working for us, but then we also got university students, because I think the one thing that everybody has realized over the last 18 months is that your cannabis consumer is not just your typical 20 to 25-year-old. You know, I walk into my store and I would say that probably 50% of my customers are probably 40 years and older, which I think is absolutely amazing. Yeah. But obviously, they're looking for a different kind of experience as well.
Well, as I listened to you, we were talking off mic before we started recording the podcast about soccer, football. We were talking about the Bundesliga. It's like you're building, a Premier League top team, right? And you need all kinds of different skills in that team. So I love I love that description.
I might run with that. That one is great. I said but that's exactly what it is. You're building a team. Yeah. So the individual traits are not as important as kind of the team.
Right.
I think the one other thing to add to it is just around culture. So for us, I really believe that you have to focus on culture versus numbers, and probably my investors at Blackshire probably won't love that statement. I truly believe that if you treat your employees right, if you've got a strong company culture, and actually people come to work and they actually love coming to work, they love being with the other guides, they love talking to each other, they love working at mīhī, then customers will recognize that, and sales will come. I've always been strongly opposed to basically leading by spreadsheets, because I just don't think that's the way you build a strong culture. That's the way you build a transactional company, but it's not the way you build a lifestyle brand that's anchored in cannabis and a strong culture.
Well, it's been a great journey, very Canadian. You kind of go down the fast rapids and then you hit dry land and you have to portage the canoe over the dry land and then get back into the fast waters. I was thinking of that as I was listening to your description. It's very, very distinctly Canadian metaphors. Yeah. But what's next? So you mentioned a store in Stony Creek. You talked about stores more in suburban locations. What does your next year or 18 months look like?
Every time somebody's asked me, I made a prediction. I've been wrong so far, but I'll give it another shot and we'll see what happens. So for us, we're going to open Stony Creek in November. Of that, I am 99% certain. So that's the logical next step for us. The store is in construction right now. It's in the Winona Crossing Shopping Center. Great location. So we're super excited about that. We have another 5 stores in the pipe right now. 3 of them we've already heard back from the HCCO that they are ready for the pre-inspection. So hopefully they will open in, let's call it Q1, Q2 of 2021, depending on the pace of licensing. I think the one thing that we've realized over the last year is that we were in such a rush to get to scale. Like everybody was. It was all about, when are you going to hit 75? We need doors. I actually do not think that the cannabis retail game is about getting to 75 stores in Ontario anymore. I actually think it is about being very selective in your location selection, I think it is about operating high-performing stores. And if that means that you're only operating 10 stores, then so be it. Because I think what we'll see across the spectrum of cannabis retail in Canada is that there are quite a few dogs in the lease portfolios just because everybody was rushing. And mīhī is no exception. We had a ton of leases, and not all of them were AAA. But now I actually feel like we've got a AAA portfolio that's really strong and it's positioned to do very, very well in a competitive market. I think the other piece is also around just our retail ecosystem. Obviously, because of the regulations, there's a huge focus on the store experience, because ultimately that's where I've got the physical connection with my customer. So it's definitely my most important touch point. Right. But we're starting to think through, obviously, just our digital experience, our online experience, click and collect, as I mentioned, which we just launched. But then it's also delivery. I think that we do not know what's going to happen with COVID. We don't know if there will be a second wave. We all have probably good guesses as to what we think. But I believe that eventually delivery will become a permanent reg, a permanent law that allows cannabis retailers to deliver. Because the reality is we weren't operating at the time, but there are very strong operators out, and they've all proven that they can deliver in a safe fashion without any risk to the general public.
That's right.
I think it's really tough to make the argument that they shouldn't do it, because it would be a very self-serving argument from a government perspective. So I think that will come. So for us, it's all about how do you position yourself well. I'm fortunate in my work with Walmart. We spent gazillion hours on 1 hour delivery, and how do you deliver from stores, and how do you leverage supply notes and all that. So we're spending a lot of time on figuring out how to do delivery well, and in a way that actually allows you to make money off of delivery, because that's always the tricky part when it comes to online. Everybody can do online orders, very few can make money at it. So that's the one thing we're focusing on. How do I get a good customer experience? How do I get my brand into the customers' homes and actually become part of their daily life? So how do you build habits around that? And how do you really offer the best delivery experience out there, at least definitely in the legal market, and ideally the legal and in the illicit market.
And all wrapped up around understanding unit economics so that you make money.
And all wrapped up around I got to make money, exactly, because nobody rewards you for growth anymore. It's all about bottom line, and as it should be.
It's not potential anymore. it is all about performance operations. Listen, it sounds like you're building a wonderful brand, great culture, and as again, I've been to the store. It was a wonderful store, nice and bright and open. I think you nailed it in terms of the brand you were trying, the brand expression you were trying to do in the store. So congratulations to you and the team on that, and I wish you continued success as you open up more stores in Stony Creek in the western part of Ontario, and then the rest of the store. So listen, it's such a treat to be able to catch up and chat with you at length about the journey, and I wish you continued success, and thanks so much for being on the Voice of Retail podcast.
Rick, thank you very much for having me, and it's been a pleasure as usual. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks to Alex and Stefan for being my guests, and Omnovus for their support in this episode. If you like this podcast, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. Rate and review, and be sure to recommend to a friend or colleague in the retail industry. I'm Michael LeBlanc, founder and president of LeBlanc Company Inc. You can learn more about me on www.mīhleblanc.co or, of course, on LinkedIn. Until next time, have a safe week.